Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of What to Sow When. So this is a monthly series that we're doing. We started it in January and it is to give you some kind of guide to the kind of seeds that you can sow every month. So in the first episode in January we talked about what seeds that you can grow and you can start off on your windowsill or maybe in a heated greenhouse. But the thing is, in January it's still very cold and the light levels are very low, so there wasn't much that you could sow really. Whereas now it's February and things are starting to get a bit busy. Towards the end of this month is when a lot of people start doing their big batches of sowing. But we're going to talk through some of the seeds now. This is not an exhaustive list at all, and again it will absolutely depend on where you are in the world as to what you can sow, when you can sow it, and also what kind of environment you've got that you can provide for these seeds to growing. But we'll talk more about that shortly. Before we get going though, I thought what I would do is show you some of the seeds that I started off in January after our last video and show you how they're getting on now. So I'm going to grab them. So first off, these are our onions that we grew from seed. Now if you want to know how to grow onions, you need to watch our Grow with Rue video, and she gives you a very simple but cute guide on how she has done these, and I think she's done really well. So these are Alyssa Craig and they need to be potted on soon, but I'll talk about that in a minute. These little ones, these beauties, these are our aubergines, or one of our type of aubergines. We've got some more. And these are long purple, and these were started in a heated propagator on a very, very sunny windowsill. And they are just about to get their true leaves come through. And again, they're ready to be potted on. These are celeriac. Now that is something I didn't tell you in the January video that you could plant, but you can. And you can still do it now. They look very thin. Apparently that's normal, but I'm going to leave them to grow on in there for a little while now. The thing is with celeriac, I've been told never let them dry out, so although I don't plan to do that anyway, it's a key point, keep the soil moist. And then these are our cauliflowers. Now you may be looking at those and going, my gosh, they're leggy, they're long and thin. But you don't need to worry about that with brassicas because you can plant them deeper. Now obviously you don't want them to be extortionately leggy, you don't want them to be weak, but these have got lovely strong leaves on and the stems are strong, they're standing up a lot as well. But what I'm going to do is, with all of these and with some of the seeds to sow that we're going to talk about today, I'm going to do a separate follow-up video, and that will be how to pot on seeds from the previous month. So the what seeds you can sow video will always go up on the last week of the previous month. So for February, we're putting it up on the last day of January. And then following on from that, you will get another video within the week of how to pot up the seeds that were from the January month. So you will get 2 videos each month. So I hope you're going to find that useful. But for now, let's get into the seeds that you can sow this month. Okay, each month we separate this video into 2 halves. So we've got our vegetable seeds that we can grow, and then we've also got any flowers that we can grow. March's video is probably going to be quite hefty. It's going to be a big video because there is so much that we can do in March and April as well. So what I'm going to do in March and April, and maybe June if we need to, I'm going to split these up into 2 videos. So it'll be a vegetable video and a flower video. So if you're interested more in flowers, then you can watch that. If you're interested more in vegetables and how to grow, you can do that. In today's video, we will be doing a mixture of vegetables and flowers that you can grow from seed in February. So the first seeds that you can start now that we're going to talk about are carrots. Now, if you're going to grow carrots now, they need to be an early variety, something such as early Nantes. And this is because they've got more cold tolerance. If you're going to direct sow them, I wouldn't recommend that you do this until, say, the ground has unthawed. At the moment, the ground is solid. We're having heavy frosts every night, and if you put seeds into there, nothing is going to happen. Towards the end of the month, hopefully, we may be getting a little bit warmer, and then you can cover the ground with a cloche or a tunnel, and that will keep the soil a couple of degrees warmer. And if you want to sow your carrots outside, then that will be how you do it. The best way to sow carrots now is in a nice big pot that's nice and deep, probably 45 centimetres, and you can sow your carrots in there and keep them somewhere frost free, and then you will get an early crop of carrots this year. Something else that you can sow now is broad beans. Now, some people sow these in autumn, which is what I did, and you can sow them again in spring. So if you missed the autumn planting for broad beans, don't worry, you can still grow them. And I will tell you now that broad beans, fresh from the pod and cooked, or even raw or made into broad bean hummus, are absolutely amazing and a world apart from those broad beans you can buy in the shop, trust me. If you want to try them, just try a couple of seeds. When we first tried them growing our own broad beans, I wasn't too sure because every one I'd had before was kind of dry and flowery or a bit bitter, whereas our homegrown ones were beautiful. And now we're growing nearly 50 plants from that first 5 plants that we tried. So I would recommend, if you haven't tried something before because you don't like what's in the shops, then maybe try a few of them, give it a go, just a little dedicated space, and you never know, you might be surprised. But broad beans now, again, the ground is too hard to direct sow outside now. So what you could do is use a module tray or individual little pots, and you can plant them in there and keep them somewhere cool. Don't put them on a heated propagator or by a radiator or anything like that. Just keep them somewhere cool but a nice constant temperature, and they will germinate, and by the time the ground is thawed, then you will have nice healthy plants to put outside. It is worth mentioning at this point that most of the seeds that we said you can grow in January, you can still grow now. So if you're looking at your sweet peppers, your chilies, more sweet peppers, aubergines and say celeriac, or any of the ones that we mentioned in the previous video, I'll link it below and you can go back, or there is a playlist for them. You can still sow them now. If you wanted to grow peppers, chilies, aubergines, I would get a wiggle on because they do need a very long growing season, but don't put them over a radiator. They need a lot of light. So downstairs in our house we have a net curtain over our bottom window because of people looking in. But if I'm going to do my heated propagator on the windowsill, I actually put the net curtain over it, over the back of it, so that there's no light obstruction for the window. And also don't put them near a radiator because they will shoot up and look for the light and you'll end up with very leggy plants. I'm not sure I covered that properly in the first video, so I wanted to clarify it now. Right then, more brassicas. And you can never have too many brassicas, can you? A good thing to get started this month is some broccoli or calabrese or calabrese, people say it different ways. Broccoli is a nice one to get started now for an early crop, and there will be succession sowings for that too. And also one that we're going to start off this week is a red cabbage. What I am going to do with these videos is I am going to come back and remind you every month if you can do a succession sowing. So not only will I remind you of new things that you can grow each month, but we will do things that you've already sown that you can sow again to ensure that you've got a continuous crop over the season. That is something that I haven't been brilliant at in the past, so I'm hoping that by reminding you guys you can sow it, it will remind me to do it too. With the brassicas, they are cold weather crops. They do not need to go in a heated propagator. They need somewhere frost free and an even temperature, but they do not need to go in a heated propagator. Don't put them near a radiator. They need, the most important thing for your brassicas is for it to not be too cold, but to have lots of light. If we're going to talk succession sowing again, then we should talk about your lettuces, your mini lettuces, such as your salad leaves, and something like spring onions. I sow my spring onions a couple of weeks apart each time, or maximum say 3-4 weeks, to give me a continual crop because I really like my spring onions. And salad leaves, if you maybe sow a little tray for on your windowsill once a month, that will keep you going until you can actually plant them out. and grow them out into your garden or allotment or on your balcony or something like that kind. But even if you don't have that, you can always grow salad leaves on a sunny windowsill all through the year. Now, something that I've seen that you can grow this month as well is parsnips. I've never grown parsnips this early, mainly because February in the UK, we are in the centre of the UK, and I think I figured out we are borderline zone 7 and 8. February in the UK is a very cold month here. Well, it's our coldest month, probably not very cold compared to a lot of the weather that some of you guys are experiencing at the moment. I hope everyone is okay and stay safe, by the way. But as with the carrots, the ground is just too frozen to do parsnips at the moment. You can, towards the end of the month, put a cloche over it, like I said, which will warm the ground up a little bit, but I wouldn't think about direct sowing anything of that kind until late February or even into March. But I thought I'd discuss them because seed packets do say that you can sow in February. The thing is with things like carrots and parsnips is you don't really want to grow them in a module or a small pot, because they will send their taproot down, and once that gets to the bottom of the pot they will curl or go wonky, and even if you transplant that out they don't straighten back out, so you end up with these mutant vegetables. So the best thing to do is to sow them in the ground, but you can only do that if your ground is warm. So please be cautious, check your weather, you'll be the best judge of when's right. But it does say on the seed packets you can sow now, so I wanted to clarify. Another thing with parsnips is a lot of people chit them before they plant them to check for viability. Parsnips are renowned for being difficult to germinate, as are carrots really, but parsnips particularly, people like to chit them, as it's called, which is placing the seeds onto some damp kitchen towel or paper towel and keeping them moist, spraying them until the tiny little shoot comes out, and then they plant them, because then they know that that seed is viable. I've done it both ways, and to be honest, I've had better success with just sowing direct into the ground, and I personally sow them in late March. But if you want to give chitting a go, I will recommend the wonderful guy that is Terry King. He currently has lots of vegetables chitting away by seed, so I'm going to put a link to his channel down below so you can see how he's getting on with his chitting parsnips, Swedes, all sorts. Go and have a look. Now, there are other vegetables that I've seen going through them. It says on the packet, sow from February. Sow from February. And these are, say, radishes and cucumbers, and what was the other one? Beetroot, that was it. So these are radishes, cucumbers and beetroot. Now, the seed packets again do say that you can sow them in February, but I personally wouldn't do that from where I am in the middle of the UK. It may be different where you are. If your ground is already warming up and you can guarantee that they'll be fine, then go ahead. The thing is, with sowing cucumbers now, even if they're indoors in a controlled environment, those plants get big really fast. By the time our last frost has passed, those plants are going to be ginormous, and they'll be vining, and I don't have the space for those. You be the judge. If you've got the space and you know that your greenhouse is heated and you can put them out, then maybe you can sow them now. I wouldn't, but what I may do is do an experiment and actually sow a cucumber plant now and show you the size of it by the time we come past our last frost date, because I'm interested to see how big it will actually get and if I can get it to survive. So maybe I'll do that as an experiment. Now, we can't talk about sowing seeds in February without talking about tomatoes. I have lots of tomatoes. Lots and lots. These packets are full of little baggies full of them. And then I have all of these too. I will be growing lots of tomatoes, but I'm not going to start them just yet. I have a date in my calendar, and I think it's somewhere around the 17th of February, and that's when I'm going to start them. I don't want them to get too leggy and too big before I get a chance to plant them out. I'll be doing over 100 though, so that's maybe a big decider for me. If you do want to start your tomatoes, then they are very straightforward to grow. I'm going to cover them in my how to sow and how to pot on video. You could put them in a heated propagator. I just put them on a sunny windowsill. You've got to judge how cold it is where you are, but again, I would say don't put them near a radiator. The thing with radiators, if you think about this is the coldest month maybe of the year, that radiator is going to be on more than it would usually be. And also it's probably going to be on a little bit higher than usual. So those plants are going to get in a really constant strong heat, whereas a heated propagator does provide heat, but it's not a really strong hot blast. So it gives them a gentle start, whereas a radiator will send them soaring for the sky. If you want to start sowing your tomatoes and you've got space for them, start off in February, or a lot of people wait until March. The reason I start mine in February is because I like to give them a bit of a head start, and it means that I'm going to get an earlier crop. If I started them in March, then my tomatoes probably wouldn't start to ripen until, say, August, maybe even start of September, depending on how the weather is. Last year I started them in February and we were getting ripe tomatoes at the start of July. I planted them out at the end of May. So it wasn't a big window for them to grow once they were outside. Once they were outside, they grew away just fine. As long as the frost has passed, you're fine to plant them out. It's up to you. You can start your tomatoes inside now, or you can wait until March. People have different ways of doing things, and that's fine. But if you did want to get a head start on them, then February is a good month to give that a go. If you've been looking around on YouTube or on any social media groups, you may find that a lot of people are now purchasing their seed potatoes or getting their potatoes to chit. February is a great time to start that. Some people don't buy their seed potatoes until, say, March, but what I like to do is I like to get them in February because I don't want them sitting on the shelves in the shops for any length of time and growing really long shoots looking for the light. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a separate video as part of our potato series for the year, and I'm going to show you what we grow, how we chit it, and then how we plant it, and so forth and so forth. And also, as I mentioned in our Tuesday chatter, there will be a potato experiment this year where we will take 5 types of potatoes. So it will be a cheap potato from the pound shop, something like a mid-range one that you can get from any shop on the high street, such as Wilco's. Then we're doing a quality seed from JBA Seeds, an organic seed, and also a shop seed. When by shop seed, I mean an eating potato that you can go and buy that you would cook. They will be all the same variety. They will all be planted in the same pot. So this is a container experiment with the same compost in the same area and treated the same way. And what I want to see from that experiment is, are the big expensive potatoes worth it, or do the pound shop ones produce just as well? And it will be an experiment that we've never done before, so we're looking forward to finding out the results. So if you want to hear more about that, please do subscribe and hit the bell, and that will be starting very soon because hopefully we are going to get our seed potatoes this weekend. Rightio then, flowers. I really enjoy growing flowers. Not just because they look beautiful, but also because they encourage a lot of pollinators and they can add scent, and they can stimulate different senses. I just think allotment or a garden or anywhere without flowers is a bit of a sad place. So I wanted to talk about some of the flowers that you can grow from seed in February. First one, I'm not going to cover in detail because a certain little person is going to do a video on it soon. But the first one is sweet peas. And we are going to grow them with a module tray, and then we're going to use a comparison of toilet rolls and paper plots that Riva's made. I don't like using plastic, but seeing as we've already got these seed trays, I'm actually going to use them to help stand up my paper pot and toilet roll inners. I thought that would be quite nifty. So sweet peas are one that you can grow again this month. Another one that you can still grow is the antirrhizium and also cleome. You can start those again, and bergamot are the ones that we covered in the previous video from January. Again, link is below. One flower that I'm going to try and grow again myself this year is a Strontium. These are beautiful, beautiful pincushion flowers, and they are a hardy perennial, or at least they are where I am. And they are just absolutely beautiful, and they come in a good selection of colours, and I'm really looking forward to starting them again this year. A beautiful or traditional flower, if you like the cottage garden look, then aqualegias or columbines or granny's bonnets, they go by a few different names. They're a lovely, lovely flower to have in your garden. And also the bees love them too. The thing is with Aquiledias is they're quite difficult to get to germinate. They do like to have a cold snap, so that's why it's a good job to start them in February. What I do, I sow them in pots and then I leave them outside. I don't actually keep them in the house at all. I leave them outside so they get that cold snap, and then they will start when the air starts to warm up. A lovely little wildflower to grow. In the UK, one of our native wildflowers is Cornflower or Centuria. It has a beautiful vivid blue colour, which is quite hard to find in garden flowers. But the bees absolutely adore it, and it fills a lovely mid-level to your garden. So if you've got tall plants, Cornflower is a nice mid-level level. I always put it at the front of a border, and if you deadhead them, they will flower for months and months and months. And they also come in a variety of colours. There is the native wildflower one, which is blue, but they can also come in whites and pinks, and then a really dark like chocolate red, which is very pretty. I was really excited to discover this morning that one of my favourite flowers can now be sown, and that is Strontium major, also known as Honeywalk. It is absolutely beautiful, and it's got big chunky seeds, so if kids want to help gardening as well, it's a really good one to get them started with. But they are an annual, but they self-seed quite well. You can actually collect the seed from them when they start to go hard, and then you can save them for next year. Or if you just leave them, they will happily just spread the seed around, and then you'll have plants forever. The thing is with Strontium, you only need to buy seeds once, and you'll have them for as long as you want. If you like more unusual flowers, then you may want to think about growing some Orangeium or Echinops, which are sea hollies, and they are quite spiky, so probably not somewhere to have if kids are going to be touching them, being very tactile with your garden. But they come in lovely colours of like steely blue and silver, and the bees, again, the pollinators love them. But if you want something a bit more unusual, then they are a really good thing to look at. So that's Echinops and Orangeium. Now, if you're after scent, other than sweet peas, I don't think you can beat Phlox. Phlox comes in both annual and perennial varieties, but if you wanted to have some gorgeous scent in your garden this summer, then I would highly recommend growing some Phlox. They come in many different colours, so that you can suit your different colour schemes, but I think they really work hard to earn their place, so take a look at those. And I wanted to mention a climber. Now, this is one that I was looking for quite some time, and I couldn't find it, and I found it finally about 5 years ago, and I was really glad I did, because it did really, really well, and that is Thunbergia or Black-Eyed Susan. Now, we grew this at the back of the garden. It needs good sun, but we grew it at the back of the garden where it's just like nothing of interest there really. Now, it's an annual, so if you plant it there and you don't like it there, you don't have to worry about it, it won't come back. But it has these bright, vivid orange or yellow flowers with these deep black dots in the centre, and they really draw the eye through a garden. And they climb up to about 1.5 metres, 1.8 metres, depending on what variety they are. But I really recommend checking them out. So that was Thunbergia, also known as Black-Eyed Susan, and I have seen the seeds in the shops now, whereas before it took me ages to find them. So we will be growing those again this year. There are so many flowers that you can grow in February, providing you've got the right environment for them. Same with vegetables. The thing is, you need to look at the packets. You need to check on the websites and see what specific needs each plant has. It's very easy for me to say you can grow this now, but the reality is I don't know where you're growing. You could be in Australia, you could be in Canada, you could be in Finland, or you could be down the road. I know a couple of you are down the road actually. So you need to check out your first frost and last frost dates. You need to think about, do I have a sunny enough place for them to grow without everything getting leggy? And also think about the space that you have and how you can prioritise that. Some people will have a lot of space and they can grow everything that they want to grow in vast quantities, but other people may be very limited. Now, you have to think, if you're going to have something sitting there for a few months and then that isn't a priority to you, it's not something that maybe you need to eat and your priority is growing food, but you started off some flowers and it's too cold outside to put them out yet, then maybe you need to think about what is your priority and how long something is going to take up that little bit of space that you have. So I hope you found this useful. Again, there was so much that we could have talked about. The list is not exhaustive at all, but this is a good starting point if you want to grow your own food or your own flowers for your garden for 2019. I would encourage you to go back and check out our What to Sow in January video, and also next week check on how we are potting on those seeds that we started in January. In that video we will also be doing a bit more in depth about how I'm actually going to sow these seeds. So I will be sowing my leeks next week and a few other flowers and plants too. So do check back for that video. It will be the later part of next week, but I hope you'll find it interesting. So thank you for watching. I'm Jasmine and this is Alternative Smallholding, and we have just talked through some of the seeds that you can start growing in February. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please take care and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.